Okay, guys, we're going to do some basic counting for level 2.1 using whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, and 16th notes. This is the very basics of counting. All right, let's just review a few things in our time signature. As this example has 4/4, that's 4 beats per measure. Okay, the 4 on the bottom is going to maintain for a while. We're not going to change that number for quite a while because when that number changes, a lot of things in our music become a little more complex. So 4 beats per measure. Now remember, the measure is any space between 2 bar lines. We don't put a bar line at the beginning of music. Okay, so after a clef and a time signature, you will not see a bar line. This is just the beginning of measure 1. There's the end of measure 1. Now that means that every measure here has 4 beats in it. So the notes or the rest inside that measure have to add up to 4. Now I will write up here on top. Remember how to count. A whole note would just be 1-4, meaning 1 through 4. All right, that is signifying that we're holding something more than 1 beat. A half note would be 1 through 2, or if it happened on beat 3, it would be 3 through 4. It just has to comprise 2 full beats. Quarter notes take 1 beat, so we just use the number of the beat they fall on, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and it takes that whole beat. Now a little more complex, when we get into eighth notes, we have to have another symbol for the other half or the other fourth of the beat. So the beginning eighth note always is the beat it falls on. So sometimes you'll have eighth notes on beat 1 or beat 2 or beat 3. That's the number of the beat within the measure. And the second eighth note we call the and of the beat. All right? So 1 and. That is the second half of beat 1. Ands never come first. They always come after the number, and it's always signifying those eighth notes. Now 16th notes, remember there are 4 of them. Usually they're grouped in 4s. For our counting purposes today, they will be grouped in sets of 4. And this system was not developed by me, and there are other systems that other teachers use, but I use the one most commonly used. For 16th notes, we got to have 4 sounds because there are 4 notes in this rhythm. Now we know the first sound is always the number of the beat that it falls on. Beat 1, I'm just using 1 in this case. Could be beat 4 or beat 3. So the number of the beat is the first 16th note, and then the last 3 are E and letter A. Okay, so it's 1 E and A. When we say those syllables, it creates that rhythm. So this is, if this were my tempo, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A. So these symbols represent those given notes. Now we apply that down here in our rhythm. We're going to always start with the number 1. 1 is always the first thing in the measure. So here we go. That's a quarter note. It's worth 1 beat. The next thing to happen is beat 2. That's eighth note, so it's going to be 2, and that second eighth note is an and. Now rests are counted the same way. This is what kind of rest you should know from level 1.1. That is a quarter rest. It's just like a quarter note. It's worth a full beat. What beat are we on? We're on beat 3. It's all of 3. We're moving on to 4. Now on beat 4, I have my 16th notes here, so I'm going to start it with beat 4, E, and A. All right? Bar line means the end of that measure. I'm moving to measure 2. Now this is a half note. Half notes are worth 2 full beats. It's happening on beat 1, so it's 1 through 2. Moving on to beat 3. 3, what is this? You got it, E and A. Then I'm on to beat 4. These are eighth notes. Start with the number first, and there's the and. Bar line, next measure. This is a quarter note on beat 1. Beat 1 is finished. Now, a half rest. Remember, half rest looks like hats. How many beats is that worth? Just like a half note, it's worth 2. What beat is it on? We've already used beat 1, so I'm on beat 2. So it's going to be beat 2 through beat 3. Now, beat 4 is showing up next, and notice it is eighth notes. Double bar means the end of my song. So I'm going to count this for you. Here's a tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 4 E and a 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and. If I were playing an instrument or singing, I would only sing where those notes are. I would be silent in the rest. Now let's do another one. What has changed in this example? Well, in this example, we only have 2 beats in a measure. So these are half as small measures. Now, we can't have anything bigger than a half note because there's only 2 beats in a measure and notes can't extend over a bar line. So we would not see a whole note in this example, notice. Now, I also want to point out, at the very last measure, notice there's only 1 beam on those notes. 1 beam or 1 flag signifies eighth notes. Even though they're grouped in a group of 4, you do see eighth notes grouped in groups of more than just 2. Do not let that confuse you. All right, a lot of students miss that and they'll count that like 16th notes and say, hey, yo, what's up? It's not enough beats in this measure. Well, those are eighth notes. Okay, just like this measure, they're separate in groups of 2. Adding that beam between those 2 sets does not change anything. All right, so just want to get you used to doing that. Always check how many beams there are. All right, so here we go. We got beat 1 and beat 2 in eighth notes. 1 and 2 and. Put your symbols again right under the note because every little syllable you're saying is creating that rhythm. You can't have 2 E and a here because I only have 2 notes. So that's one sort of red flag. But always line them up so that you can see where they are. Bar line, beat 1 again. 2 and. Bar line, I've got 16th notes on beat 1. 1, E, and a. Beat 2 is a quarter rest. This measure is kind of boring. It's only a half note, 1 through 2. And as we just mentioned, these are eighth notes, just like measure 1. 1 and 2 and. Practice makes perfect. Go practice some rhythm.